If Paige Bueckers beats Arike Ogumbawale in round 2 of the Unrivaled 1v1 tournament, Arike is leaving the Wings in free agency.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone. Welcome in. You are on Locked On Women's Basketball, your team every day. My name is Clea Butler, sideline reporter for the Chicago Sky. And thanks for being an everydayer and making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. As always, I'm joined with our very own Sophia the First, Sophia Jones, radio analyst for the Golden State Valkyries. Sophia, what should we be on the lookout for today?
Today, the theme is going to be standout performances, future and past.
Ooh, so ominous with that. I like that one. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Let's get into our roadmap of the day. Obviously, plenty to talk about per usual. We'll get into a little bit of CBA. Breanna Stewart spoke out recently. Mikayla Blakes literally equals a 30 ball, but we'll talk more about that as well. But first, round 2 of Unrivaled, and it's going to be a battle of the teammates. First, it's Paige versus Arike. We're going to have Jackie Young and Chelsea Gray. Then we're not getting into the teammates. It's going to be Breanna Stewart, Aliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, Veronica Burton. But going back to Paige and Arike, it might be a dramatic take of, Arike is going to leave. But the reality is Paige is the face of the Dallas Wings now. It was once Arike. Obviously, this is a larger context that we're speaking about here. However, I think going into it, they're going to kiki ha-ha to start. But once it's time to really lock down, and if Paige wins, Arike is going to be like, I'm not the #1 option anymore, which we already kind of knew. But looking ahead at, what this season could possibly look like, if AZ Fudd joins the team, we don't know what all of that is going to look like just yet. I think it could have her start to think about, all right, where can I better fit and be that #1 option once again?
Yeah, like you said, Paige Bueckers right now is more of the face of the Dallas Wings. You're pitting these teammates up against each other, and there's definitely an added layer other than these are just two basketball players playing one-on-one. I do not think that is the case, but I think this game will definitely come down to Paige is the #1 seed. She will have the option whether if she wants to shoot for it or if Arike shoots for it. If Paige shoots for it, makes it, and gets the ball first, I think that will be extremely, extremely important because the way that Arike barely broke a sweat against Slim was very concerning because that woman looked like she was on a mission. So I think Paige definitely, if she wants a good shot at winning, I think she'll definitely need to make sure she gets ball first.
Yeah, Arike is the OG, though. So I'm not saying that she should be counted out by any means. We know the type of buckets that Arike can get. But I think when we're looking at Paige, the versatility she has, I think the footwork especially, because we have to think defensively too. Obviously, this is 1v1. Arike doesn't have any help behind her. She's going to have to play Paige very tightly, but Paige also likes those sort of situations because she likes to fade away. She likes to step back. She likes to step first. You just never really know what she's going to do, but it's the same thing with Arike. So it really is going to be a battle of who can get the ball first and just keep it for as long as possible.
Yeah, I mean, if you can, I think they need to take a little inspiration from Veronica Burton and how she shut out Courtney Williams in round 1 because, like you said, whatever player gets the ball first, they could easily get themselves on a roll, and I think it'll be really, really difficult for the opponent to stop them after that happens.
Let's take a look at the other teammates going up against each other with the Las Vegas Aces between Jackie Young and Chelsea Gray. This is also going to be another tough one, but I think the point guard is going to come out successful just because she has a move, but then she has a counter move. Not only have we been able to see her facilitate for everybody else, which we know, she has also been in situations where she finishes out an entire 15-point deficit game on her own. We've seen that time and time again. I just think she has too many counters, too many different points of angles that she can just go and attack. And she has great pacing. Even though she kind of doesn't seem like she would, she knows exactly how to manipulate a defense, especially since they're clearly probably going up against each other at practice too. I think that she can walk away with a win in this one.
I would have to agree. Like you say, pace doesn't always look like playing at 100% all the time. Chelsea Gray, her game is almost a little bit herky-jerky. So she has defenders really off guard. Her bag is incredibly deep, but her defense is really underrated also. And I think that's another reason why she could walk away with this win. I feel like there's at least one or two times every single game where someone is driving. Chelsea Gray looks like she's out the play. She's, running. It looks like someone might have a step. Then all of a sudden she gets her hands the ball, like a cat pawing at a table or something, and it's going the other way. And I think that will be very viable against Jackie Young, because Jackie, she has the speed. So this will definitely be a tight matchup, but I would have to agree. I think Chelsea Gray might have this one.
Yeah, Jackie's also a player that likes to get downhill a lot too. And you can't bring the ball too close to Chelsea Gray by any means, as you mentioned. So we will see what that one looks like. But another good one is going to be a battle of the bigs between Breanna Stewart and Aliyah Boston. I think Stewie's going to take this one simply because Stewie can stretch the floor a little bit better than Aliyah Boston. Aliyah Boston likes to be more body up, utilize her strength, but Stewie is very quick at 6'4" and at the pace that she plays at too, and the fact that she can score at all three levels. I think it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge for Aliyah Boston, but you never want to count her out either.
No, 100%. Aliyah Boston, I almost think if there was a little bit more time in that shot clock, she would have more of a chance in the one-on-one against Breanna Stewart. But because it's so condensed, for her game is getting to the rim, figuring out something to do either within or right around the interior or in the mid-post area. But you got to dribble to get there first, so you're eating away time on the clock. And I think that Stewie, her game, she can score all three levels, mid-range assassin, president of the MIDI committee, whatever you want to say, but she is that. So she has just a little bit more facets to her game that I think will be an advantage against Aliyah Boston. Also, just that first step that she can play with. She's very long. There's a reason she is in the technically forward pool, even though I feel like I see her a little bit more as a big guard, but there's a reason she's there, because she is a very lanky player.
When you're speaking of a quick first step, we have Kelsey Mitchell and Veronica Burton going up against each other too. Veronica Burton shutting out Courtney Williams in general. Kelsey Mitchell, however, this is a good matchup. Let's go back, because Veronica Burton defensively looks very strong this year, and she improved a lot from the beginning of the season. But Kelsey Mitchell having to go up against her one-on-one at the speed that she plays at is difficult for anybody to match.
It is. And I would go back to the games that the Valkyries actually played against the Indiana Fever this past season. Veronica Burton got that matchup against Kelsey Mitchell. And I will just say she did a solid job of containing Kelsey. So I think this matchup will be a lot closer than maybe some people think. Veronica, she's a very cerebral player, so I know she's coming into this with a little bit of a scouting report. And I also just want to highlight these, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Stamina, because that is a very important part of these ones. Sometimes it's really not who's the better player. It's, okay, when the score is tied 7-7 and both players look gassed, who's actually going to come away with more stops and who's going to have more composure to score. And Veronica's, just like I said, stamina, cardio has always been extremely elite.
Yeah, and you mentioned that yesterday too. Kind of who's in better shape right now at this point is going to walk away with a win, because there's a lot of defense that you have to play for some. And even on the offensive side, you're absolutely gassed by the end of it. Even though it's to 11, it can be hard to get those 11 points sometimes. So we will see what those matchups look like. But coming up after this, Mikayla Blakes might be one of the most elite players in college basketball right now. The Winter Games are officially here, and if you're anything like us, you're locking in for events you only get to see on the biggest stage every 4 years. And that's why following the Winter Games on FanDuel just makes sense. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle on the sports you care about the most. FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected to the action. Speed racing is decided by just inches. And I was watching, I think it was an Italian skater the other day who was just absolutely taking off on people. Started off a little bit slow, but then created that lead and it was over with for everybody else. So you want to make sure you are tuning in to these Winter Games because there's no better way to follow them than with FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. Hiring isn't just about finding someone willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed sponsored jobs is the move. Because instead of hoping the right person stumbles across your post, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who fit your specific criteria, like skills, certifications, and location, which are all significant when trying to find somebody and helping your business. So if I were hiring, I wouldn't just want someone who can help. I want someone with real experience who can jump right in right away. And here's a stat that says it all. In the 1 minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to the Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. Vanderbilt and Texas faced off yesterday, and let's just say Vic Schaefer was not happy after this loss to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt defeats number 4 Texas, Vanderbilt at number 5 right now, 86-70. Vanderbilt came out with a 14-0 run, led 27-15 after the first quarter, and maintained control essentially throughout the rest of the game. When we're looking at the scoring splits, they led the whole way except for the final quarter. Vanderbilt 27-15 after the first, 20-15 after the second quarter, 23-22 after the third, and then they were outscored 18-16 by Texas in that final quarter. But when Mikayla Blakes is dropping another 30 ball on you, it's very difficult to try and get back into the game.
Yeah, she came out the gate just with her mind set on she was not going to be impeded on what she wants to do. Between her and Aubrey Galvin, they were getting layups. It felt like just every single possession in that first quarter, all the way to the rim. Vanderbilt, in general, they really just spread out Texas and pushed the pace before the Longhorns get set in their half-court defense. But Mikayla Blakes, she continues to impress me. Those 34 points were efficient. She was 9 of 19. Also, 11 fouls drawn. So she was 13 of 15 from the free throw line. And that just goes to show how much Texas just really struggled to stay in front of her.
I mean, she was honestly kind of looking like SGA out there because she is finding her spots. She's getting to the rim. She's getting fouls called on her. But drawing 11 fouls, everybody is looking to attack her. And this is the most important aspect, I think, for Vanderbilt, showing how elite their offense truly is, because Texas is one of the toughest defenses to go up against in the SEC. So the fact that you are, first of all, drawing that many eyes on you, draw that much defensive attention, still being able to get yourself to the rim. They're not just going up and blocking her stuff. She's being able to get herself to the free throw line. She's able to finish on some of those. That shows that Vanderbilt has improved greatly just from the beginning of the season till now, because that addition of Aubrey Galvin has started to slowly creep in. Aubrey wasn't putting these numbers up at the beginning of the season. Mikayla Blakes was. And this is why I said Mikayla Blakes' leadership is so important, because Aubrey Galvin is starting to step into that role with her of, hey, I need a little bit of assistance here. So when you have Mikayla Blakes having 34 points, then Aubrey Galvin, again, a freshman, coming in with 18 points and 8 rebounds and allowing Mikayla Blakes to play in her own space, play off the ball. It creates so much more opportunity for Vanderbilt, and they just completely spread Texas out.
Yeah, every time that there was a stop or even on some made baskets by Texas, Vanderbilt was just outletting it. And before Texas had time to even turn their head to look for where their matchup was, Vanderbilt crossing half court, getting a paint touch, and creating from that. But like you touched on a little bit earlier, Vic Schaefer was extremely disappointed after that loss. He had some statements in the post-game presser saying, quote, it's the first time at Texas I feel like we were out tough. The other team played harder, and quite frankly, we had no heart. That's not the way you represent Texas. It's probably the softest team I've had in years. Also, putting a little Band-Aid over it, saying, I'm accountable. That's my team. So he is at least taking a little bit of that blame. But looking at the way that Vanderbilt just essentially got whatever they wanted on offense, you can see where some of these comments derive from and just the lack of physicality that Texas played with.
Yeah. When we're looking ahead for who these teams are facing up next, Vanderbilt will play Georgia. However, the irony in that Texas is going to play number 22 Tennessee, and Tennessee's head coach Kim Caldwell just came out in a post-game conference, saying that her team was basically full of quitters. So we will see the real battle of that post-game presser, and whoever loses, if it's going to be Kim Caldwell calling out her team or Vic Schaefer calling out Texas and what he didn't like from them. But another look at some of the most elite scoring and some of the most elite guards within NCAA basketball. TCU defeats Baylor 83-67. And if you don't know Olivia Miles by now, you should, because she had 40 points with 10 made three-pointers, a career night for her, one of the most explosive performances in basketball this season for her. Her seven of her threes, though, came in a gigantic third quarter for TCU that just was not making Baylor even getting close to trying to win towards the end.
Yeah, she was 10 of 20 from three-point range. So initially you look at 23 pointers and like, oh, wow. But then you see that she made 10, 50% on that high volume from the perimeter is an extremely good rate. But I think for Olivia Miles, TCU, they've shown to falter a little bit throughout Big 12 play. So this was definitely a statement win for her team. And I think getting her and her name back on the radar of a lot of these WNBA scouts as well.
I mean, that was the main reason that she went back to school in general. She could have easily declared for the draft, been in the WNBA by now, but after her injury, she still wanted to work on her game. And this is really important for her draft stock right now. So I agree with you completely on that. But it's bad when it comes to threes, because the headline for Baylor in their post-game recap is too much Miles. And then the lead headline under that is Bears' #1 3-point field goal defense gives up 15 threes in a loss to TCU. So, they were not happy with the amount of threes, especially when there's 15 and 10 of them came from Miles alone.
I know. I mean, I feel like if you're Baylor, if you remove Olivia Miles out the equation, you're only giving up 5. But even as a team, they were 15 of 29, so 52%. That is essentially how the game was won there. Shooting high volume, shooting efficiently. Baylor, they'll pack it in a little bit more. They like to be physical in the interior. And if that's the game plan that you're going to shoot for, then you have to be prepared for the other team to maybe go off a little bit.
Yeah, TCU and Texas Tech kind of leading the way for the Big 12. I believe they're tied right now in terms of who can kind of take away that #1 spot, climbing towards the top. But TCU will host West Virginia on Sunday, and Baylor will go back on the road to face UCF. But stick with us, because coming up after this, Breanna Stewart had some things to say about the current CBA agreement.
There's nothing like being in an NBA arena. The crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple. That's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast, without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. I live about a long walk, a little bit of a muni or public transit plus walk away from Chase Center, where the Golden State Warriors play. And it makes me sad a little bit sometimes when I think about Steph Curry retiring. So I know that I got to make sure I get in to some of these Warrior games, but Game Time makes it so easy. Everything feels quick, intuitive, and stress-free from start to finish. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today, and remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. It's 2026, and so if you're still paying rent without Bill, it's time for a little bit of a change. Bill is the loyalty program for renters that rewards you for your biggest monthly expense, rent. With Bill, every rent payment earns you points that can be used towards flights, hotels, Lyft rides, Amazon.com purchases, and so much more. And here's something I'm really excited about. Starting this month in February, Bill members can earn points on mortgage payments for the very first time. Soon, you'll be able to get rewarded wherever you live and unlock exclusive benefits with more than 45,000 restaurants, fitness studios, pharmacies, and other neighborhood partners. Personally, the weather is a little bit gloomy here in San Francisco in the Bay Area, so I'm in the mood for some hot yoga, and Core Power is one of the ways you can redeem Built points. Join the loyalty program for renters at joinbuilt.com/lockedonwomen. That's joinbilt.com/lockedonwomen. Make sure to use our URL so they know we sent you.
Breanna Stewart seems to be slightly more confident that CBA negotiations will come in time for WNBA season to have a full season, ideally. However, she has also expressed a lot of frustration when it comes to dealing with these negotiations. She feels there's been less negotiation, more fighting about who thinks that they are right. And she came out on a podcast, Recognized Game podcast on February 11th, where she conveyed some of those messages. Sophia, what did she get into on that podcast?
Yeah, she said, because a little bit more context, where the players had the in-person meeting not too long ago, and it was essentially the players, they had their proposal. However, the league didn't even come with a response or a proposal of themselves. So now it sounds like the league is now putting together a proposal, or they have proposed one. And so Stewie said, the proposal that we got, there is movement, we got traction, we're finally headed in a direction. I'm excited to hopefully negotiate back and really kind of do the negotiations. So a little bit of positive forward movement with this CBA, but I've honestly really enjoyed, or I feel like Stewie is consistently the player that is actually giving people updates where she's like, yeah, we got this happened, and this is a little bit where we're at. So please keep doing that, Breanna Stewart, because we are all eagerly awaiting to find out if there will be a WNBA season.
Yeah, Stewie, we appreciate you, girl, because we're all trying to figure it out. And she's the one that keeps giving us these little hints and clues here and there. Be like, yes, guys, we'll figure it out. Just wait, blah, blah, blah. She's really been our inside source when it comes to CBA. You know, obviously, Fee kind of led the way, made her statements. And honestly, she's been pretty quiet about it since, looking back at it. Obviously, I'm sure she's probably at the forefront of all these conversations, but nice to see that Breanna Stewart is also kind of being like, I guess we should sort of inform the public about what's going on, and so they can start getting excited for WNBA season. But ESPN actually asked AU players with WNBA ties, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that there will be a full WNBA season? And there was some mixed emotions. It landed on an average of about 6.1. There was one outlier that said 2, who was apparently just, not really feeling it. The most common answer was a 5. So basically, it was just like, we don't really know. We hope so kind of answer. We're not overly hopeful about it at the moment. And AU is being played right now. So these are pretty fresh answers, which, comparing that to Breanna Stewart, you don't know how to feel. Are we having a whole WNBA season? Are we going to start late? I think basketball will be played nonetheless. It's when that will begin.
Yeah, exactly. I think you don't want to tighten the deadline too much before the time that the WNBA season starts. Even I saw the Valkyries, they announced that they'll be having a preseason game on April 25th, which is making, it even a little bit shorter. But I think, like you said, with Breanna Stewart, those comments, that's optimistic. Then you get to how a little bit of these Athletes Unlimited players are feeling that have those WNBA ties. And with that average answer of, on like you said, on a scale of 1 to 10, 6.1. So I guess that's borderline optimistic, which I would have hoped to have heard something maybe a little bit more positive. But I think that for someone like Breanna Stewart, who is high up in the food chain for the WNBA Players Association, for her to be optimistic is definitely a good sign.
It's all about how you view it, right? You can view it glass half empty, glass half full. You never know. But at the end of the day, I think everybody wants to play WNBA basketball. We love seeing AU. We love seeing Unrivaled. We love that it presents us women's basketball year round now. However, nothing beats WNBA, being able to have your team, have your players, fans going out to the games, especially with this expansion. We saw how successful the Valkyries were. The Valkyries hired the Sophia Jones. Obviously, they were going to have a great season. But there's just so much excitement to come, even with the future of the league and those expansion teams, some of them coming to the Midwest. You want to have these things figured out because there's just so many implications for what it's going to look like years down the line, too.
Yeah, the time frame for getting the CBA done is getting tighter and tighter. I think that something needs to happen quickly because we still have expansion drafts for 2 teams and the actual WNBA draft as well, plus free agency. So these things are starting to pile up a little bit.
There's so much to be done, so little time. There's preseason games in April. We don't know. But we just hope that we see that season start at the beginning of May and everyone will be happy. But thank you, everyone, for joining Locked On Women's Basketball. That'll do it for us today and this week. We will see you all again on Monday.